Friday night. You know what that means. It's your WWE Smackdown and AEW Rampage recap here on YouTube Live. I am the Solomonster. It is Friday, February 11th. I hope you guys are ready to talk some wrestling here. I mean, that's why you're here, right? So, wishing everybody a happy weekend before it happens here. Hopefully, everybody's got plans for this weekend. I've got plans. I'm looking very much forward to the House of Glory show tomorrow. And in fact, we had a name that appeared on AEW Rampage tonight who's going to be joining us for some House of Glory action tomorrow night. So I'm excited. I'm ready to go. But we got to talk about this first. And if you didn't see either of these shows, I got you covered, including SmackDown. The main event on SmackDown tonight was for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Charlotte Flair one-on-one against Naomi. And the two women went out there tonight and they tore the house down. The New Day and Los Lotharios last week on SmackDown had the best match on the entire show. I mean, it wasn't even close. They had a rematch tonight. We had a couple of rematches tonight on this show, and they had a good match as well. Not as good as the main event, but if you take the opening match and you take the final match on the show and you watch nothing else from SmackDown, you would think, hey, this was a pretty good show. If you watch the rest of SmackDown, if you watch the other 90 minutes or so of the show, 80 or 90 minutes, then you realize that SmackDown has fallen from where it once was. SmackDown tonight was a completely forgettable, completely missable show outside of that main event. You missed nothing if you did not watch anything except the main event for the SmackDown Women's title. That was a very good main event. I cannot say the same for the rest of SmackDown. Over on Rampage, we had the opening match. It was quite the follow-up to the main event of SmackDown. SmackDown goes off the air. And I race over to put TNT on. At first, I put TBS on by accident because I have to sometimes stop myself and say, okay, Rampage is on TNT, Dynamite is on TBS. Sometimes I still put TBS on the wrong night or whatever. So I put TNT on, and I put it on right at the right moment, and both teams were already in the ring, and we're off to the races. I don't even have time to breathe when I watch these shows. They just go right into the action. That's why I call Rampage the fastest 60 minutes of wrestling every week. They don't take a breath. They just go from one match and one segment to the next. You know, it's when you're reviewing the show, you're not just sitting there and watching it. You're reviewing the show. You're taking notes. It's quite a pain. But what they gave us in the opener was a very good match. We had the AEW tag team titles on the line tonight. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus defending the belts against the Gunn Boys. Billy Gunn's Spawn got their title match tonight. We're going to get into all of that. Super chats are open. I will be reading whatever messages do come in, and I thank you in advance. Anybody who supports the show and supports the stream and supports the channel can hit that like button. But any super chats, we'll hang out a little bit later on, and we'll read those. I'll answer your questions. And yes, before we are done tonight, we will take the brand new Be the Booker for a spin. We took it for a ride the other night. You guys seem to enjoy it. And so we will be doing more of that before the end of the night here. And I want to just welcome everybody who is with us, including our mods, Uffman and Quizzical One. Thank you guys for holding down the fort. Very much appreciate it. So Corey Graves filled in for Pat McAfee on SmackDown tonight. We were told because Pat McAfee is out west, I believe, or headed out west. It is Super Bowl weekend. He is an NFL guy, so he was not on the show. I assume that means no Pat McAfee next week either, because for those who don't know, WWE was taping 2 episodes of SmackDown tonight. Well, by now, that taping is probably over, or just about over, because they're going to be flying out to Saudi Arabia. The pay-per-view is next Saturday. Oh, I'm sorry. The premium live event. I have to correct myself. People were tweeting me the other day. They were asking me about PLEs. I thought they were asking me about PEDs. I'm like, why are you asking me about drugs and prescriptions? They were like, no, PLE, the premium live events. It's going to take some getting used to. They're still pay-per-views to me. But the pay-per-view is next weekend. So they couldn't do SmackDown Live, so they're taping it tonight. And if that's the case, then I think Pat McAfee, well, I mean, I guess they could always, if they don't show the announcers, if Michael Cole, let's say, just got up and went to the back before the next taping started, so there's nobody sitting at ringside, they could just have Cole and McAfee in studio later in the week, kind of dub over commentary. But anyway, Pat McAfee was not in New Orleans. We got Corey Graves on commentary. Sonya Deville was in the ring. She had her arm in a sling, as she did last week, to announce that, or on Monday, I should say, to announce that Ronda Rousey was being fined $100,000 for what she did to her last week when she locked her in the armbar, and also announced that she was indefinitely suspended. Adam Pearce comes out, interrupts Sonya Deville, and says, "Not so fast. I got a message here from the chairman, got a message here from Vince McMahon, announcing that you are hereby released from WWE." No. He's saving that for after WrestleMania. That's when Vince is saving that announcement for. That'll be the next wave of cuts. But he said the message was that Sonya has been abusing her power and that her petition to both suspend Ronda Rousey and fine Ronda Rousey has been declined. And he also said that she is not to interfere in Naomi's match with Charlotte tonight or lay a hand on her, because if she does, then her job would be in serious jeopardy. So he didn't say that she would be fired. He only said that her job would be in serious jeopardy, probably because, well, he doesn't want to get in trouble. Got to be very careful these days, corporate hierarchy and the things that you say. Anyway, that brought out Naomi, who got in the ring and said, Vince said that Sonya couldn't lay her hands on me, but he never said anything about me laying my hands on you. And she slapped her across the face. So it was one of those feel-good moments. Naomi has been dicked around by this woman on TV now for months. It's been going on for how many months now has this been going on for? It's got to be at least 5 months, 6 months. We never did get the explanation of why, but it's been going on for a while. So, and the fans like Naomi. It's not just sympathy for her character on TV. They genuinely like Naomi. So this was it was nice for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was nice for Naomi to have a moment when she doesn't get too many of them in this storyline. But I thought it was smart because so many times on this show over the months, Naomi has been screwed over, and she's been just, dicked around by this woman, and she's been insulted and embarrassed, and in matches, she's been screwed out of, victories by Sonya. So what they did at the beginning here was they established, okay, this woman has a championship match later in the show. You probably had a lot of people who thought, well, why bother? Because she's just going to fuck her out of it in some way anyway. They made it very clear at the beginning of the show, you're going to get a clean match. Sonya Deville's not going to get involved. This woman is not going to get screwed. So stick around because she might win the title, even though I cannot imagine that there were too many people who actually believed Naomi had a shot at winning the women's championship. This close to WrestleMania, I don't think that there were too many people who thought, well, maybe Naomi will go and defend the title against Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. So, even though it might have been predictable, it was smart to tell people at the beginning, don't worry, we're going to give you a clean finish. This woman is not going to interfere. Stick around. So I thought that was smart. Kofi Kingston and Big E were out next against Los Lotharios. This was a rematch from last week's show. That was the best thing on the entire show last week by a country mile. It was not even close. That was a very good match. We got more of the same tonight. Not as good, but we got more of the same from these four tonight. Los Lotharios did the old kiss cam gimmick. I'm sure a lot of sports teams, I know a lot of sports teams do kiss cam, but, they do them here. It's always funny when they do it at Citi Field for the Mets games. And invariably, you will get to this couple. And maybe they're not even a couple. Maybe they're like brother and sister. He's like, I'm not kissing my sister. We always get that one couple that they kind of zoom in on and they look all awkward and they're like a deer in headlights and they don't want to have anything to do with each other. So I am a fan of the kiss cam. It's always fun also when they occasionally put two women on camera. I'm just saying it's always interesting. But anyway, so they did the kiss cam thing here. They had a woman planted in the aisle seat. And they go over to her and they plant a kiss on each cheek. And she is just over the moon. Corey said that he was surprised that this woman didn't... he was surprised that this woman didn't tip over. And I initially thought he meant something different by that. And then I realized what he meant, that she didn't faint. That's what he meant. I thought he meant something else. Anyway, New Day hit a double foot stomp off the top rope out of a powerbomb position on Humberto for a near fall. Later on, Angel hit a moonsault from the top rope onto Big E at ringside. So Big E was standing on the floor. And Angel hits this moonsault, and the way he landed, there was a thud right on top of Big E's head. And I always get scared anytime I see this move because, and anybody who was watching, TNA and Impact back in the day, I wonder if you guys agree with me if you think back to this. I always think back to the whole Zima Ion match with Jesse Sorensen. And when Zima came off the top with a moonsault, he just happened to land in the single worst spot that you could land in. And I think with his knee. He came down straight on top of Jesse's head. And that's when he got paralyzed. He couldn't move. And it was a really scary situation. Now, eventually he was able to regain his, he was able to regain his mobility and he was able to start feeling again in his feet and his hands and everything. So anytime I see that and I see the person land directly on someone's head, it's pretty scary, but I heard a thud. So my only thought was like, oh shit, I hope Big E is okay. Thankfully he was. But anyway, after that, Humberto hit a moonsault of his own on Kofi Kingston in the ring, and he got a near fall out of that. Angel tagged in. Humberto hoisted up Kingston. He slipped out. He shoved Humberto into the corner, and that caused Angel to lose his balance. Kingston hit the Trouble in Paradise on Carrillo, and Kingston went for a sunset flip on Angel, but Angel rolled through, and he got the pin. So Los Lotharios pick up the win this week on the show. 50-50 booking here. Win for New Day last week, a win for Los Lotharios this week. Match was good. The finish was anticlimactic. I wasn't really a fan of that finish. But they're one apiece. And the good thing about that is, now that they're one apiece, there has to be a third match. And these two teams work very well together. It's only been 2 matches. But these 2 matches have been very good. They've been very enjoyable. I like last week's match more. But giving us a third match, I can't complain about that. So I look forward to seeing the third match between these 2 teams. We had the Viking Raiders. They were in the back. They were about to be interviewed about their match against the Usos for the tag team titles next weekend in Saudi Arabia. Before they could even say a word, Jimmy and Jay attacked them, left them laying. And that was that. We didn't see them or hear from them for the rest of the show. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns was being mic'd up in the back for a sit-down interview that Michael Cole said he was headed backstage for. He goes, I'm headed to the back to talk to the tribal chief about his match with Boombox Bill at Elimination Chamber. You see him on screen. Look at him right at, where is he? Right there. There he is. All right. Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg, who stampeded through the WCW roster in 1998, became World Heavyweight Champion, won his very first World Heavyweight title in 1998. And here we are in 2022. He has moved beyond the world, and he is now looking to become champion of the universe. For the third time. He is going to challenge for the Universal title at Elimination Chamber. They come back. Michael Cole is in fact sitting in the back, and he's preparing to interview Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman has the title. He's seated right behind Roman. He's watching. Michael brought up the winning streak that Goldberg had in WCW and brought up the fact that this guy was 173-0, which is complete and total bullshit. He was not 173-0, and after a while, the fans kind of caught on to that, and they didn't seem to be as into Goldberg as they were still into him, but it kind of killed the magic of the actual streak that he was on when they just started inflating the numbers. But anyway, that's the storyline streak. He was 173-0 before he finally lost. Hey, Naif Al-Safar, thank you for the $4.99, brother. There's that Lashley Tongue super chat. So he brings up the WCW stuff, and then he brings up Survivor Series from 2016. That's when Goldberg came back. That was his first WWE match in many, many years. And he came back and he shocked the world by beating Brock Lesnar, the man who ended The Undertaker's undefeated streak of WrestleMania, the man who had been more dominant in that last decade than anybody else in the entire company, was beaten in 86 seconds at Survivor Series by Bill Goldberg, who had not wrestled a match in WWE since 2004. Ironically, against Brock Lesnar. And they showed highlights from the Survivor Series match. So they're going back in time to show how dominant, because that match at this point was what was that, 6 years ago now? Later this year, it'll be 6 years since that match. So Reigns laughed and he called, because he brought up Brock. He goes, Brock's old news, Lesnar's old news. And Michael Cole said that Reigns against Goldberg was supposed to take place at WrestleMania 2 years ago, but it didn't happen. And he asked if there was any added pressure on Roman, who said there is not. He said that Goldberg might have stood a chance 2 years ago, but the world is very different now, and now he is the tribal chief. And he said that he would smash Goldberg. He said he's going to Goldberg at the Elimination Chamber. We can only hope. We can only hope. I'll tell you what, not if Bully Ray was booking this match. He wouldn't be Goldberging Goldberg. Bully Ray, I even hate to bring this guy up. He's on his own show. He's got his own opinions. That's all well and good. We all have opinions. Opinions are like assholes, right? Everybody's got one. But, all the wrestling news sites run with it. So now I hear about these horrible Bully Ray takes every single week. And I realize why I don't, bother listening to him generally. But everyone runs with it. It's become headline news now. Whenever Bully Ray has a bad take. I don't know why it's headline news. It seems like it's becoming a more normal occurrence. It would be kind of shocking if it was actually a great idea. But his latest take that he pitched is that Bill Goldberg should beat Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber. He should beat Roman Reigns and he should win the Universal Championship. Because it'll help shake things up a little bit. Now, I don't know about all of you. I am sick to death. I am sick to death, as I know many of you are, about WWE programming and how repetitive things can be, and I wish things could be shaken up in a positive way, right? It would be nice if things were shaken up. I'm all for shaking things up in a good way. Whatever that looks like, whatever that way is. And not being so predictable all the time, and not doing the same shit over and over and over again, right? I got nothing against that. My idea of shaking things up, though, would not be having Bill Goldberg beat Roman Reigns to become Universal Champion and win his third Universal title for the third time in the month of February, after beating Kevin Owens for it in the month of February, after beating The Fiend for it and killing The Fiend in Saudi Arabia in the month of February. Let's continue the streak. Goldberg, this is his new streak here. This is his new streak in this modern century. We had the WCW streak. The new streak is that every few years in the month of February, right before WrestleMania, Bill Goldberg is going to win the Universal title. But his idea is that you immediately bring the match back on SmackDown next Friday. You have them rematch on television, and Roman Reigns wins the championship right back from Bill Goldberg. That's the grand idea. That ain't it. And as awful as WWE television can be, we should all be so grateful that Bully Ray is not on the WWE creative team. Because as bad as it is, and as bad as it can be, always remember, it can be worse. That would be fucking awful. I'm with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is going to go in there. Roman Reigns should smash Bill Goldberg in a matter of minutes and send him on his way. We had Natalya taking on Aliyah in what was billed. I don't even know actually if they billed it this way on the show tonight, but they did last week, and I know on the website earlier they billed it as a dungeon style match. I think on the show tonight they were really just calling it, pinfall or submission only, which was the only way to win this match. And they recapped the storyline with the two of them, Aliyah. She's on the other show. Aliyah beating Natty in a record-setting 3 minutes and 17, or 3 seconds, 3.17 seconds. And then, of course, the count-out win and the disqualification win. And so Natty is just at her wit's end, right? So she came up with this idea that we'll have a match, pinfall or submission only. No count-out, no DQ. None of this bullshit. And they go in there. This didn't last very long. Natty hit a Michinoku driver for an ear fall. Aliyah recovered and hit a Thez press, and she followed that up with a bulldog for 2. Aliyah got a half crab. Natalya managed to get out of it. Natty locked her in the sharpshooter, and Aliyah got to the bottom rope, but we were told there were no rope breaks in a dungeon-style match. So it didn't matter. She had nowhere to go, and Aliyah gave up, and Natty wins. After the match, Natty attacked her, and she went to go put her back in the sharpshooter when all of a sudden we hear Xia Li's music, the Protector. And here comes Xia Li. She runs down to the ring to make the save. Various kicks are thrown. It sends Natty packing. They didn't really seem like they were on the same page here. These two were not in sync in this sequence here. What little they did together, they seem to have very noticeable timing issues. So hopefully they can work that out before they have their match. But that was the end of that segment. So it wasn't even really so much about Aliyah. It was more about Xia Li. I'd like to see more Xia Li on the show. We haven't seen too much of her yet. At least she hasn't totally vanished. She did there for a while. Remember that? She debuted, made a couple of appearances, and then we didn't see her for like a month. I think I made the comment at the beginning of January. I said, what the hell happened to Xia Li? She wasn't in the Royal Rumble match either. Do you remember seeing her in the Women's Rumble? Because I don't. I don't even think she was in the Rumble. But at least she's got a program for herself locked in. They got The Rock. They couldn't get The Rock for Survivor Series, so we ended up with the fucking Egg and Vince McMahon. But we got The Rock on the show tonight, kind of. We have The Rock's voice. The Rock is all over the place. All I hear about is The Rock. Right? The big controversy with Joe Rogan and The Rock got involved in that when I'm sure, The Rock he's very careful about his PR. And it was a rare blunder for him, I'm sure, to be caught up in all this stupid controversy that we've been hearing about. So we heard about that. I saw the trailer for Black Adam. They finally released footage of this Black Adam movie that he's starring in. That I don't know when it's coming out, but that got some pretty good reviews for the video they put out. The Rock is going to have his first Super Bowl commercial, which really isn't his first Super Bowl commercial. We all remember a Super Bowl commercial that The Rock was in many years ago. In fact, on that note, WWE is going to have at least one Super Bowl commercial this year. They're going to have a Super Bowl commercial for WrestleMania. So this will be WWE's first Super Bowl ad since 1999. So The Rock was on SmackDown tonight to narrate. He lent his voice to a Black History Month package for his father, Rocky Johnson. And so that was very nice. And they had footage of Rocky Johnson, obviously, his career and the Hall of Fame and everything. So that was very nice. Sami Zayn was out next for another one of his in-ring podcasts. In Zayn. Another edition of In Zayn with Sami Zayn. I like Sami. Black Adam, July 29th, says Uffman in the chat. So there you go. July 29th, Black Adam. To be honest with you, I don't know anything about the Black Adam character. I just started hearing about it probably a couple of years ago when the talk first started that The Rock wanted the role and he got the role. But I'm not really familiar with Black Adam. I saw the trailer. It looked, kind of interesting. And anyway, so there you go. July 29th, I guess, is the date that it comes out. But Sami was in the ring for a podcast. He introduced Rick Boogs came out, along with the Intercontinental Champion Shinsuke Nakamura, who Sami is going to be challenging next week, or I should say tonight, for the title. Again, be aware that show is already in the can, and I'm sure that spoilers are going to be out if they're not already out. So if you are allergic to spoilers, good luck with that. Good luck. You got a week to hide. You can run, but you can't hide. If you're on the internet and you go to wrestling sites, or you're in YouTube chats, or you're on Facebook, there's no way you're going to be, you may as well just forget about it. There's no way you're going to be able to avoid spoilers. I believe that we are going to have a new Intercontinental Champion. I believe we should have a new Intercontinental Champion. Nakamura has done nothing as the Intercontinental Champion. And it's not just, he hurt his hand. Yes, he hurt his hand. He missed some time. But even before that, what did he do? as the champion. Nothing. It's been a complete waste of a title run. Nobody years from now, nobody 2 years from now, a year from now, is going to remember a goddamn thing that this guy did as the Intercontinental Champion. So get the belt off of him. Sami Zayn is actually an interesting character. I'm digging the work that Sami is doing. I like Sami Zayn with this whole character that he's been doing. The whole heel shtick. He's been a heel for a while now. When the news came out that Sami re-signed with WWE, I was happy because he really doesn't have any reason to go anywhere. He's doing okay for himself. I'm digging his work. I'm still hoping one day we'll get to see that conspiracy documentary that he's been talking about for so long. Maybe they'll bring it back to that. So anyway, that's hopefully how things will go in that match next week. But they had footage from earlier today. They showed Johnny Knoxville. This story is still continuing. And shout out to Dalton, who just subscribed to the channel. I saw you, Dalton. But Johnny Knoxville was somewhere. He had a t-shirt, I guess a Sami Zayn t-shirt that was done up kind of in the same font and design for the logo for the Jackass Forever movie. And this bothered Johnny Knoxville. And he took the shirt out. There was like a wood chipper outside. And he shredded the shirt. And they came back and Sami, was talking about how he's not going to let Knoxville get to him. I'm still thinking that they're going to build to a match between these two at WrestleMania. You got to know that in their mind, the more stars and celebrities they can get, they got 2 nights of WrestleMania in Texas Stadium. They claimed 101,000 people the last time they were there 6 years ago for WrestleMania. Now they're running the building back-to-back nights. So at best, they could claim over 100,000 combined because they're not getting 100,000 on 2 nights. I don't give a shit what they say. But if they're worried about moving tickets and stuff, and by all accounts, everybody was very happy behind the scenes with Johnny Knoxville. He was very respectful. People were, they thought he was a fun guy to be around and played his part well. And they're continuing this story with him and Sami. And so I think that we're probably going to get a match between them at WrestleMania would be otherwise, I don't know why this is still going on. So he introduced his guests here for the segment. He said he couldn't wait to see the look on Nakamura's face when he beat him. He said Nakamura's been ducking him now. He's had this title shot in his back pocket for weeks. He's been avoiding him. Nakamura asked Zayn if he had seen the movie, and Sami assumed he meant the Jackass movie. And Nakamura said, no, next week's movie is going to be called Jackass Defeated. There's some of that high comedy here on SmackDown. SmackDown itself is high comedy on most weeks. So Zayn got upset. He pointed out that he used to be in Nakamura's corner. And now he's got Rick Boogs, and he mocked him. Boogs grabbed the microphone. And he didn't have the mic in his hand for very long. He grabbed the microphone and acted, we almost heard like he was zapped. He acted like he was literally shocked or like electrocuted. And I think they may have played some kind of sound effect too. So he goes down, and Nakamura bends over to check on him in the corner, and Zayn takes advantage of the distraction. He charges in with the haluva kick and kicks Nakamura in the face. So that was the entire segment. Again, spoilers, I'm sure if they're not out already, will be shortly. And I would hope for a title change here because, why not? I have yet to hear a better reason from anybody that this title should stay on Shinsuke Nakamura. It serves no purpose. It really doesn't. Put the title on Sami. At least Sami is getting television time every week. We know that. Sami is actually, he's in an entertaining role right now. And I think that it's time to put the gold back on Sami Zayn. So they recapped the Drew McIntyre segment with him hitting the Claymore kick on Madcap Moss last week. God, this show. As I sit here and I go back over my notes and I really just process what I watched on this show. Again, outside of maybe the opener and then the main event. God, this show fucking sucks. It's almost like, why do I even bother with this show? It's terrible because SmackDown used to be, for the longest time, SmackDown was the A show. Raw was awful. which it largely still is a lot of weeks. But at least you had SmackDown. It was an hour less. It was generally a better show. Roman Reigns has been, carrying the show for months and months and months, but even now, it's not enough. It's not enough. Roman alone cannot save this show. Roman alone is not doing much of anything to save this show. The show needs more than just Roman Reigns. It needs more than just a big name to keep people interested in. But I look at this card and I look at all these segments. We go from that to fucking, Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. My God, what are we doing here? Yeah, and then the draft happens, says Hamwall. It seems like the draft seems to really fuck SmackDown over on most years. SmackDown could be doing well, and then it's time for the draft, and it's like, oh boy, here we go. They're going to blow up SmackDown all over. You got to start from scratch. What was that guy? Jeffrey Loria, right? The guy who owned or still owns, I think, the baseball team in was it the Marlins? The Marlins, right? The Marlins could have a championship season, and then the guy has a fire sale and blows up the entire team, and you have to start from scratch. It's kind of the same concept. SmackDown used to be really good. I don't know what happened. Maybe the draft. Maybe that's what it is. Actually, you know what? It's not the draft. Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. There you go. They're the ones who control all that stuff, the draft. Talking about it like it's a real fucking thing. Like it's a real draft, like the NFL draft. It's all just a tool used by these people. These people are the ones responsible for this. They could easily put the show, together in a different way if they wanted to. But they think that this is quality television. That's what they legitimately believe. So anyway, they recap that whole thing, and in the back, Moss had a black eye. He had his eye done to look like he had a giant black eye. And he told Corbin, look, I'm not going to be going out there with you tonight. Corbin had a match with Cesaro. He goes, I'm not going to be able to go out there with you. You got the eye. It's like he's got fucking pink eye or something. And he goes, maybe I won't be medically cleared. And if I'm not medically cleared, then maybe I won't be able to wrestle Drew McIntyre at Elimination Chamber next week. We should be so lucky. Happy Corbin against Cesaro. They joined the match in progress. They've been doing this more often lately, where they'll just come back and the match is already in progress. Cesaro had the early advantage. Corbin took over, slowed things down, and Cesaro fought back, but Corbin hit the deep six for a near fall. Oh, Fire Panda says SmackDown is the 0-16 Detroit Lions of the WWE. Quite the analogy here on Super Bowl weekend. Quite the offensive analogy here on Super Bowl weekend. And Joey agrees with me. SmackDown is the Miami Marlins. And Antox is correct as well. Nothing matters, really. They hit $1 billion in revenue. So there you go. I guess that really is what it all boils down to, right? Doesn't matter how bad they get, they can still count on all that money. When all that money is rolling in, why put in the extra effort? Cesaro avoided the little around the corner clothesline that he does where he leaves the ring and then quickly comes back inside. So Cesaro avoided that. He sent Corbin to the floor. Followed that up with a running uppercut against the barricade. Cesaro hit a springboard uppercut for a near fall. Corbin came back with the end of days for the win. The most protected move. I was thinking about this during the show. It's very impressive. The end of days and the brogue kick have to be the two most protected finishing moves in WWE in the last decade. Decade plus, for Sheamus. Have to be. I don't believe anybody has ever kicked out of the end of days, even going back to NXT. I can't think of a single match I recall where anybody kicked out of that move. And the brogue kick, there might have been a couple of instances of that, but even the brogue kick, those are the two moves I always come back to, even to this very day, the most protected moves in this company. So the one good thing I can say about Corbin, no matter what crappy gimmick he might have at the time, whether it's Constable Corbin, Constipated Corbin, Happy Corbin, Broke-ass Bitch Corbin, or just plain old fucking Baron Corbin, they protect that fucking move like, you would think that it's the Stone Cold Stunner. And they don't protect the stunner nearly as well as they protect this move. So at least he has that going for him. And look, I wanted to also just talk about Cesaro. I know a lot of people are upset, and I already saw it on my timeline. Oh, Cesaro, why are they jobbing him out? What are they doing to Cesaro? Look, they didn't include him in the Royal Rumble this year. And then I think he commented on it and said he was also upset about that. Cesaro last year was the beneficiary of Daniel Bryan being part of the creative team on SmackDown. Daniel Bryan spent time on the creative team for a while, and he clearly lobbied for them to do more with Cesaro, because he and Cesaro are tight, but he also recognizes talent. Talent recognizes talent. And Daniel Bryan, I'm sure, is one of many people behind the scenes in WWE, not named McMahon or Pritchard, who look at Cesaro and realize how much wasted potential there was for him. And I'm not saying that, boy, had they pushed him differently, he would be in the spot that Roman Reigns is in, or he would be in the spot maybe that Bobby Lashley is in on Monday Night Raw. He doesn't have to be. Cesaro had the potential to be so much more than he was. And last year, when Bryan had some creative influence, all of a sudden Cesaro got a push out of nowhere. And he ended up getting a championship main event on one of the pay-per-views. Was it the WrestleMania Backlash show? It might have been. Against Roman Reigns. And they went in there and they had a very good match. It might have been a different show, but it doesn't matter. He got that one pay-per-view main event that had eluded him for his entire career. He had a very good match with Roman Reigns. And at that point, I told you guys even then, back last summer, I said, that's really all I wanted. I wanted him to go out there and have the chance to headline a pay-per-view and a title match. And he got that, and I had no illusions about them keeping him in any kind of a main event position on that show. I knew then that that was as good as it was going to get for Cesaro. And there are still people who have convinced themselves that things are going to turn around one day, and Cesaro, oh my God, he can be so much more. I got news for you. Cesaro started working in this company, I want to say 2011, 2010, 2011, sometime around then. Dolph Ziggler has been there longer than he has, by a few years. Cesaro is at the point now in his career in WWE. He is basically at the Dolph Ziggler level. And what that means is that he is someone who they recognize is talented, and you can almost always count on him to go in there and get a good to great match out of him. He's very serviceable. You can put him in a tag team, as they've done for most of his fucking career. He's had 4 different tag team partners, I think. He's been a tag team specialist in this company. He's a guy they can drop in there when they need him. They can rely on him. They know what they're going to get. But at no point is the thought going to occur to these people that, hey, maybe we should elevate this guy to the next level. It's not going to happen. It's 2022. This guy's been there for over a decade. He's content in the position he's in. He's been there this long. It's like Dolph. Dolph had plenty of opportunities to leave and go somewhere else. For all the talk about, my God, Dolph Ziggler, why doesn't he just leave? He doesn't want to. He's content to make his money and to just go out there and do whatever WWE tells him to do, and he's happy to do that. Now he's showing up now in NXT, in the Nickelodeon zone down there. That's where Cesaro is at this point in his career. He's going to be around. I mean, I suppose never say never. Nobody is safe in this company, not even Shane McMahon. Could Cesaro be cut? It could happen. But I think he's that great utility player for them off the bench that they can rely on when they need him in a pinch. Stop kidding yourselves into thinking that Cesaro is going to one day be elevated and get some kind of big push that's going to stick. It's not going to happen. It didn't stick last year, and it's not going to happen this year. So just give it up already. I've accepted where he is on the roster. He's reached that Ziggler point where it's the point of no return. He's been there for so long, slotted at a certain level. It is what it is. In the back, Madcap Moss was talking to the trainer. He was talking to the doctor in the back about, how he can't compete, trying to get out of his match with Drew McIntyre. And the doctor told him to close his eyes. And when he opened his eyes and they asked him, well, what do you see? We saw McIntyre's sword right in front of his face. He goes, I see a sword. And then he realized that Drew was there. And it didn't take too much convincing for him to tell, while Drew was standing there, for him to tell the doctor, yeah, you know what, I actually feel okay. I think I'll be okay for the match. And Drew informed him that now their match next weekend would be Falls Count Anywhere. So anything goes, no rules, Falls Count Anywhere. McIntyre and Moss at Elimination Chamber next week. Michael Cole did his second sit-down interview of the night, this one with Goldberg. And Cole said that, people are saying that this match next weekend with Roman may be one comeback too many for Big Bill. Oh, you don't say. You don't say. Goldberg disagreed. Goldberg said that this one's going to stick, and it's going to call back upon the Goldberg that we remember. And he said that Roman may call himself the tribal chief and the head of the table, but he says he's still the same Goldberg, and he's still the same Goldberg, and Roman is going to get what he deserves. He was stumbling over his words a little bit. After Elimination Chamber, Roman will acknowledge him as the Universal Champion, and he said that he'll face Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania. The thing about Goldberg is that, and I keep saying it because, again, I get comments from people who clearly don't listen to my show and they don't listen to the streams, watch the streams. Yeah, they'll see the thumbnail, the headline, the little vomiting emoji, and just think I'm just blindly crapping on Goldberg and say absolutely nothing positive about the guy. I'm going to say something positive about him right now, something I've said before. The thing I like about Goldberg, and that Goldberg does well, even now in his mid-50s, Goldberg can cut a promo. Tonight was not one of those nights. But when Goldberg goes out there and he's in the middle of the ring, he's got that bass in his voice, and he's got that intensity that you really don't see from very many people that are half his age. You don't see it a lot. You see it from Edge. When Edge came back in the whole Thunderdome era, and he was able to kind of do those quiet promos, but then he also had those really loud promos where he'd get all angry and stuff. Edge was doing some fantastic work, some fantastic promo work for some of his big pay-per-view matches. Goldberg, I thought, was always a really good promo when he had the time to go in the ring and cut a promo. Even in recent years when he came back to WWE. There aren't a lot of people who go out there and sound the way that he does. And it sounds authentic. It doesn't sound like he's trying to memorize lines or anything like that. This was not an interview, I think, that suited him. This was not a good promo from him. Again, he was off. He felt off here. The material was, he didn't really have much of anything to say. He basically just said, look, you're going to get the old Goldberg in Saudi Arabia, and I'm going to go to WrestleMania, and I'm going to defend against Brock Lesnar. So, not the best Goldberg promo, but they are promoting a face-to-face with Reigns and Goldberg on next week's show. So, I guess we have that to look forward to. Maybe they can get Bully Ray to, MC the segment. Maybe he can come in there and, he can play the role of the moderator. I'm sure he would like that. Then we got to the main event. The only thing on this show worth a damn this week. Charlotte Flair defending her SmackDown Women's Championship against Naomi. And Sonya Deville couldn't do a damn thing about it. She could not get involved in this match. They gave these ladies some time. I don't know what the final time was. I didn't clock it on my stopwatch or anything. But they gave them 2 commercial breaks in this match. So they gave them close to, if not 20 minutes here for this main event. And they had a hell of a match. Charlotte was in control early on. She caught Naomi with a shoulder tackle. While she was celebrating, Naomi jumped up and caught Flair with a tilt-a-whirl head scissors. That sent Charlotte out to the floor. She followed that up with a twisting plancha. And so they went to the first break. Come back, Naomi hit a flying crossbody for a near fall. Charlotte took over. She slowed things down and missed the boot in the corner. Naomi kicked the leg, hit a jawbreaker. So Charlotte hit a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker for a 2 count. Naomi fights back. And she hits a blockbuster off the top for a close near fall. Here's where things really started to pick up. After the blockbuster, things really started to pick up in this match. Naomi went after her after Flair rolled out to the floor. and she threw Naomi into the ring stairs. Naomi, now they're back in the ring, and Naomi jumped up either for a Rana or she may have been going for a head scissors, whatever it was. Charlotte caught her, though, in midair and muscled her up and power bombed her down for a near fall, which I thought was impressive. That spot was impressive. Naomi got the knees up, and this was this was the moonsault. This was not impressive. Charlotte went from an impressive spot that looked good, but she couldn't help herself. So she went up to the top rope, and you knew what was coming. And she hit her top rope moonsault, lands on her feet, because now she has to do it all the time. She has to do it all the time now. I love, and I know suspension of disbelief. I know. I'm not blaming her for this, but it's just silly to me. How for so many years, Charlotte would hit her moonsault, right? Or she wouldn't. Maybe she would miss. But she would go for her moonsault, and the person would lay there, and they would either take it or they would get their knees up. But now, every single match that Charlotte has, when she goes for the moonsault, the other person has to move. It's like for 5 years, they didn't move. But now every match, they move, so she can do the double moonsault. And the problem is, when she does the double moonsault, it never looks good. Never. It never looks good. She has done twisting moonsaults off the top rope out to the floor. I've seen her do it at WrestleMania before. That looks good. Her regular moonsault, she gets the rotation. Her legs are so long that she ends up landing on her feet anyway. But when she does that double, the Andrade double moonsault, never looks good. So she went for it again here. Naomi got the knees up. Probably didn't even really have to. I mean, Charlotte basically landed on her feet anyway. But Naomi got the knees up, and she immediately got up and hit the rear view and got a very close near fall. This right here was the best near fall of the entire match. And the announcers sold it great. They panned out to the crowd, got people on their feet, standing up. They couldn't believe it. That was great. This is where the match kicked into another gear. She dragged Charlotte over to the corner at that point and went for the split-legged moonsault, but Charlotte got her knees up this time, and Charlotte rolled her up for a near fall. Naomi came back with a Bubba Bomb. Funny enough. We got a Bubba Bomb here from Naomi for a near fall of her own. Naomi hit the split-legged again and connected with it, but Charlotte kicked out at 2 when she attempted to win the match. Charlotte, though, did manage to kick out. Naomi tried for the rear view again, and she was way off with it. I mean, she didn't even come close. And then Charlotte went for the chop block to the knee. It didn't really look good. She kind of, barely got her with it. But then she hit the natural selection and pinned Naomi to retain the title. So Sonya Deville at that point climbs into the ring when the match is over. And she's got her arm in a sling. And she starts to mock Naomi, who just lost this match. She's devastated. She's heartbroken. Pinned by Charlotte Flair. And Naomi gets up and starts teeing away on Sonya until Charlotte attacked her. And so now Sonya begins to stomp away on Naomi. And all of a sudden we hear Ronda Rousey's music hit. And everybody cheers. And here comes Ronda Rousey. She's sprinting down to the ring, dressed like she just got released from a 10-year prison sentence. She storms down to the ring to make the save, and she gets inside. And she fought off Charlotte with body shots that these jabs that did not look good. I'll be diplomatic about it and say that she's got some ring rust to work off here. These did not look good. Charlotte ran off at that point. Ronda took Sonya Deville down with another armbar. This time she was going to armbar the good arm. But before she could get it locked on, Charlotte reached in and pulled Sonya out of the ring to safety. So let me just say, props to Charlotte and Naomi for having a hell of a main event. They had a very good match. Some great near falls. The people were into it. I was into it. It was exciting, right? The finish was, I wasn't really a fan of the last, 10 or 15 seconds or so. But the match itself, I thought was great. And credit to both of them, not just one over the other, but credit to both of them. They worked well together tonight. They had a very good match in the main event. And it was great to see the fans actually buying into a lot of those Naomi near falls. You know, when you have a match like this with a predictable outcome, I mean, you could always put the belt on Naomi, I guess, and then just put it back on Charlotte before WrestleMania just to keep people guessing. But it's not really their MO. And I wouldn't do that because I feel like it almost cheapens Ronda's win if Ronda does beat her and take the title of WrestleMania. I wouldn't do that. So you had a predictable outcome. And it takes talent. It takes people who are good at their job going in there and doing a good enough job to convince you and me, even if just for a split second, that, oh shit, I thought that she actually had the title won there. And they did that about 3 or 4 times in this match. They made me forget, and they had me, thinking that maybe there would be a title change there for a second. So again, kudos to both women for that. But as I said at the very beginning here, SmackDown tonight was all about the opening match to a lesser degree. Yeah, the opening match was good. It wasn't anything that people are going to remember in a few weeks. But that main event was very good. So if you watch the opener and you watch the closer, that's all you needed, because everything in the middle was completely missable and just completely forgettable and completely pointless. I mean, not pointless in that it furthered certain stories, but not compelling in the least. Fucking garbage. Watch the main event. Main event was very good. Even if you don't usually watch WWE television, make sure you watch the main event. It'll be worth 20 minutes of your time. Since the show went off the air, a tag team match has been made official for Elimination Chamber next Saturday in Saudi Arabia. It will be Ronda Rousey and Naomi taking on Charlotte and Sonya Deville. So that is now official. And yes, I don't know who it was in the chat a minute ago who said that Ronda totally tripped. Now that you mentioned that, it did kind of look, before the camera cut away from her, as Ronda was sprinting down to the ring, like she may have tripped or almost tripped, and maybe that's why they cut away. So I think you may be onto something. I thought I was the only one who noticed it, but yes, I think that she may have nearly fall flat on her face. Boy, that would have been very embarrassing had that happened. Although not nearly as embarrassing as Titus O'Neil doing the Titus slide coming down the aisle. That will never be matched. Titus O'Neil will forever live in the annals of WWE history for that alone. So at that point, I flipped on over to TNT for AEW Rampage, which went right into the opening match. The Young Bucks and Roppongi Vice already in the ring, ready to go, ready to rekindle their rivalry from New Japan. This was the match we were supposed to get on Rampage several weeks ago, but Rocky Romero came down with the case of the COVID, and so the match had to be canceled, and I think they did Nick Jackson in a singles match, as I recall, against Trent Beretta. Trent and Rocky Romero, they were frustrating the Bucks early on. They started walking out. They're like, fuck this, we're going to leave. And the Bucks were almost all the way up the rampway. Trent and Rocky said, let's go get him. So they leave the ring and they run up the ramp, and the Bucks, as they get there, right as they get to the top of the ramp, the Bucks turn around and double super kicks right to the face. And then the Bucks sprinted to the ring with hopes that the baby faces would get counted out. It was a smart strategy, but it didn't work. Rocky Romero got back into the ring just in the nick of time. So Orange Cassidy was out there with Roppongi. He's in their corner, and he slid under the ring. He slid himself under the ring at one point. The Bucks are watching this, wondering what the hell's going on. They reach under there to try to pull him out, right? Because he stuck his thumb out from under the ring apron, the ring skirt, whatever. And they pull Cassidy out from underneath the ring, and when they pull him out, it's not Orange Cassidy's thumb. It's not him. It's Danhausen. And Danhausen does the Danhausen pose. I don't even know what you call it, but he did the Danhausen thing that Danhausen does. And as he's doing that, I guess that's all. Maybe it's in his contract. He's not here to wrestle. He just shows up and does the Danhausen pose. I'm guessing maybe he's not fully healed up yet from his leg injury, because we haven't really seen him do anything physical at all, let alone a match. But as he's doing that, Beretta and Rocky Romero hit a pair of topes to wipe out the Bucks. And Danhausen took his leave. He waved and he left. He fulfilled his obligation for the night. Tough day at the office. Oh, it's the curse. I see. Elijah, yes, okay. That's right. I stand corrected. It is the curse. It is the curse of Danhausen. I am cursed. I'm not cursed. He didn't put the curse on me. Hamwall. Hamwall says you are cursed. I'm not cursed. I mean, I felt like I was cursed as I was watching some of that SmackDown show. But I'm not cursed. There was a Doomsday Device knee strike off the apron by Rocky Romero to Nick Jackson that took him over. Trent drove Matt down on the back of his neck near the finish, hit the strong zero. But it was not the finish because as he attempted to pin him, Nick Jackson used Rocky Romero as a battering ram. He shoved him into Trent to break up the pin attempt and save his brother. For the finish, the Bucks hit the Meltzer driver to Rocky. Trent broke up the fall. And then the Bucks set up for the BTE trigger. They put down Rocky Romero for the 3 count and picked up the win. The other good thing about Rocky, when he comes in to do these matches, he's very selfless. So Rocky Romero can go in there and lose. You know, Trent Beretta is the full-time member of the AEW roster. So it's better for Rocky Romero to be the one taking the fall as opposed to Trent. But the Bucks get a win over Roppongi. I thought it was a very good match. A great way to go back-to-back, too. You go from Charlotte and Naomi and the fucking banger they had at the end of SmackDown right into what we saw here with the Bucks and Roppongi to open up Rampage. Now, after the match, Brandon Cutler is in the ring. Orange Cassidy was checking on Rocky. And Brandon Cutler gets in the ring, and he's spraying cold spray in Orange Cassidy's face. Orange dropped him with the orange punch, and the Bucks then dropped him with dueling super kicks. As Trent is standing in the ring and he's got his back turned, we hear a commotion. And we had been told that Jay White was going to be on this show tonight. So when he wasn't in their corner and they barely even mentioned him, you had to think he was coming out at the end of this match. So Trent is standing there and he doesn't realize that behind him, sneaking up behind him, is Switchblade Jay White. And when he turns around, Jay White hits the Blade Runner and leaves him laying. So Jay White stepping into an AEW ring for the very first time on this show. On Wednesday, it was a backstage segment, but obviously later that night at the taping, he came out, got in the ring for the first time, and he left Trent Beretta laying with the Blade Runner. And we found out after Dynamite went off the air on Wednesday how quickly this deal came together for Jay White. Jay White was not supposed to be on Dynamite on Wednesday. When Tony Khan, a week ago tonight, I was on this stream. I was sitting in this chair on this stream talking to you guys. And after the show was over, Tony Khan was tweeting, right? Remember that? He was tweeting away. And the surprise, the forbidden door, the mystery man that he was teasing was always going to be Keith Lee. Jay White was not going to be on the show. Tony Khan, after the fact, though, realized when he was probably getting a lot of tweets from people about it, he realized that he fucked up. He realized that he messed up. By using the forbidden door language in his tweets, he completely misconstrued what the forbidden door, so to speak, was really supposed to be. When you hear forbidden door, and I'm with a lot of you, I'm sick of hearing the term at this point. But when you hear forbidden door, you know, the first person who mentioned forbidden door, I believe, was Hiroshi Tanahashi a few years ago. I think it was Tanahashi who said, it's time to open the forbidden door. And everybody got all excited. And then it got co-opted by everybody, including Tony Khan, they don't shut up about this forbidden door stuff. Meanwhile, they don't even know what it fucking means. Forbidden door is somebody who works for another company coming in, opening the door, and showing up somewhere else while they work for another company. If you have a guy like Keith Lee, because when he said that, he had Keith Lee in mind. Then he realized that that's not forbidden door. The guy was fired. He's a free agent. That's not forbidden door. So on Sunday night, he made the deal to bring in Jay White. He said, shit, I fucked up. You know what? Let's go grab one of the big stars from New Japan and we'll bring him in. And we'll make the deal happen. So in a matter of 48 hours, he had made the deal to bring in Jay White, which is a big get for them. But it also tells me they probably don't have very many plans for him, thought out. I'm not really sure how many matches we're going to get in AEW with Jay White. We'll probably get at least a couple. We already know we're getting one next week. But it's not as if they had all these things mapped out. Oh my God, we've got these great plans for Switchblade. We've got 3 or 6 months worth of storylines. This guy wasn't even going to be coming in until Sunday night. Tony Khan made the deal. So it's amazing how, quickly this all came together. But I wanted to just break here for a second on the subject of Jay White. And I wanted just to show you guys a tweet. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now and explain what this is. This is a tweet from Cashflow Ken Broadway. And especially if you are a independent wrestling fan, if you're familiar with the Northeast independent scene in particular, you've heard of the name Ken Broadway. And if not, you will. Ken Broadway has been around for a while. Cashflow is going to be wrestling Jay White for House of Glory tomorrow night. I've talked about this. I'm very excited to be calling the first Jay White match in House of Glory in 5 years. And funny enough, the last time we saw him in a hog ring in that building in Queens was against Ken Broadway. So this is the first time since 2017 that these two are going to be stepping into the ring together. That's 5 years. And I said on the stream the other night, you see there, that's a clip from the stream the other night where I was just talking about the fact that, I'm looking forward to this show on Saturday and being able to call a Switchblade match. And Ken Broadway was not very happy about that because a lot of people have been talking about Jay White, but they're not talking about Ken Broadway. And as you can see here, he says, Jay White this, Jay White that. You're my guy, Solomonster, but why wasn't Cashflow mentioned in this clip? The match ain't even happened yet, but I can tell you're already counting me out like the rest of them. And I think that Ken Broadway needs to worry less about the Solomonster and needs to worry more about Switchblade. He's not wrestling me. At least I don't think. No, nobody's told me if I am. He's not wrestling me. He's wrestling Jay White. His focus needs to be on Jay White. Jay White is a guy who headlined the Tokyo Dome. He has a win over Okada in the Tokyo Dome. Not very many people can say that they have beaten Kazuchika Okada in the Tokyo Dome. The man headlined Madison Square Garden. It's a big deal that he's coming back to New York City. And he's going to be standing across the ring from one of the best in the world. His focus needs to be on Jay White. And I think, he's upset, and I can understand he's upset that people are overlooking him. They're looking through him. They're looking past him. We could very well be in for a major upset tomorrow night. If Jay White is full of himself and Jay White is looking beyond to his match with Trent Beretta on Rampage next Friday, because it was announced tonight that Jay White is going to be wrestling Trent Beretta next Friday night. And if he's focused on that and he's looking at that and New Japan Strong and all the other stuff that he's doing, he might be looking past Ken Broadway. We could have major news tomorrow night. So hey, I'm rooting for Ken. And I think that he could pull it off. But he doesn't look at it as an upset. So he was very upset about this, and I'm gonna have to watch my back tomorrow. When I get to the building, I might have to sneak in the back door here. I'm a little worried here if I come in through the usual entrance here, through the wrestler entrance. I'm gonna have to enter through like a side door. I didn't mean anything by it. Don't be coming after me. But I think he needs to be focused on Switchblade. But yeah, if you are in the New York area, you got to come on down. There's going to be general admission tickets available. I don't know how many more are left. First 4 rows are sold out. You can see the match for yourself. We're not going to be live on Fight TV tomorrow night. I don't know why. I don't know. The show might go up there at some point in a couple of weeks. But I'm not sure. That's being handled by someone else. I'm not up on what's going on there. So you're going to have to come to the building if you want to see the match. That's not the only match on the show. We got Private Party coming back. Of course, they were House of Glory guys before they debuted in AEW. They're going to be coming back for at least one night only, and they're taking on Rich Swann and Willie Mack. You talk about the Forbidden Door. We got 2 AEW guys wrestling 2 Impact guys in a House of Glory ring. So that's pretty cool. So a lot of good stuff coming up tomorrow night. I hope you guys can join. So anyway, we come back from break. Amiibo, what's going on? Someone said I'm going to do a run-in. No running in. I'm going to be calling the action. I'm going to be doing my job. But we come back from break. Ricky Starks announced that next Friday on Rampage, Powerhouse Hobbs is going to be going one-on-one with Dante Martin. They're going to try to settle this issue. It's going to be a Face of the Revolution qualifying match. So one of these men is going to move on to the ladder match. Of the two guys, Dante Martin is the guy who really belongs in that Face of the Revolution ladder match. I mean, he can do some spectacular things, I'm sure. We already know Keith Lee is in the match. I don't know how many bigger guys you need to have in that match. You got to think Wardlow's going to qualify. Wardlow's got his qualifying match coming up next Wednesday. Wardlow's getting into the match. So you're going to have Wardlow. Keith Lee is already qualified. I don't think Hobbs needs to be in the match. I think this is a Dante Martin win next week. Tony Schiavone was in the back to interview Bryan Danielson about Jon Moxley teaming with CM Punk on Dynamite this past Wednesday. He said, if it bothered him and what he thought about Moxley tagging with Punk, given the fact that Danielson had floated the idea just last week of, if not a team, doing like a faction or a group thing with Moxley. And Danielson said it wasn't the same thing. He said that what he wants to do is build to something long-term. He wants to build something long-term. Look at it like a relationship. He's looking for a long-term relationship with Jon Moxley. And what Jon Moxley had with CM Punk on Wednesday was more like a one-night stand. That's the analogy he used. Matt Sydal interrupted. He had Lee Moriarty with him. If you remember, Lee Moriarty is one of the young names that Danielson dropped last week. He mentioned Daniel Garcia. He mentioned Lee Moriarty, Wheeler Yuta, as some of that young talent that the two of them, he and Moxley, maybe can kind of take under their wing. So Sydal came in and he took exception to Danielson talking about Moriarty last week and the idea of taking him under his wing, when that's kind of what Matt Sydal has been doing with him. Danielson told Sydal that what Lee needs, what he needs to learn, you can't teach him. He needs to learn violence. And Moriarty stepped up in his face and said, you want violence, I can show you violence. And it looked like that turned him on. Danielson got a smile on his face, and he said he was pleased, and he said that's what he was looking to hear, and he asked him to show him his violent side in the ring next Wednesday on Dynamite. So I am looking forward to that. It is going to be Bryan Danielson one-on-one against Lee Moriarty. There are so many younger guys on that AEW roster that you put them in the ring with Bryan Danielson, and he'll get the most out of them and can probably have a kick-ass match in the process. And so Danielson can do both things at the same time. He can have a program going with a top star like a Moxley or a Punk or a Hangman, but he could also go on Dynamite, he can go on Rampage, and he can wrestle guys like this. I want to see him in the ring with guys like Lee Moriarty and Daniel Garcia and Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara and, people, Dante Martin, people like that. I want him in the ring with those guys too. There's a whole roster of talent he's never worked with before. I would love to see him back in the ring with CM Punk, and I know we will at some point. But we already saw that. I know it's been, 10 years or 11 years, but still, I want to see him in there with people I've never seen him wrestle before. It's one of the things that I was thinking earlier. Somebody asked me the question on Twitter, what are the top programs you want to see Keith Lee in? And I rattled off a bunch of names. Sammy Guevara, I think, was one of them. And Danielson was one too. I've never seen Keith Lee in the ring with Bryan Danielson. There's so many potential matches, first-time matches we've never seen before that are just untapped. And we're probably not going to see all of them, but if we see even half of them, that's, part of the appeal for me when I hear about some of these WWE names coming in. For me, it's not Bryan Danielson coming in and working with Chris Jericho because, who the fuck cares? We've already seen that before. I want to see him in there with people like that. So that's going to be very cool. Britt Baker, one-on-one non-title match against Robin Renegade. Well, I showed you one tweet. I got another tweet all queued up here. I know you guys will like this. Robin Renegade has a twin sister. Her name is Charlotte. And there you see a tweet from Charlotte Renegade trying to promote her sister's big match against the AEW Women's Champion here on Rampage tonight. But didn't quite go well. Although she owned it, she didn't delete it. She could have easily deleted this tweet, but she chose not to, and she kept it up. Go watch my twin lick some ass on Rampage on Friday night on TNT. You can imagine the comments under this tweet. This seems more suitable for AEW After Dark than it would Dark or Rampage. There was no licking tonight, but we did have a match. It was Britt Baker one-on-one against Robin Renegade. Britt landed a suplex, went for some ground and pound. Yeah, we didn't get any licking of the ass here, but we did get some pounding here at the beginning of this match. Some ground and pound from the AEW Women's Champion. Renegade fired up, hit some strikes, and Britt Baker moved when Robin went for a splash. This was right before the picture-in-picture. After the break, Renegade hit a shotgun dropkick and a frog splash for a near fall. Baker escaped a suplex with a gator roll and hit a super kick, and Britt hit a fisherman's neck breaker and the curb stomp for the win. This went longer than I expected it to. I mean, she gave her more offense than you would have expected in a match like this. After the match was over, Baker applied the lockjaw to Renegade. Her mouth was all bloody, and we heard Thunder Rosa's music, and here comes Thunder Rosa storming down to the ring, and she double-legged Britt, took her down, starts pounding away on her, and raining down blows. Here comes Jamie Hayter. The announcers earlier had mentioned the fact that there's been some discord, I should say. There's been some discord of late between Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, not on the same page. She wasn't out there with her like Rebel was for the match, but now here she comes. Here comes Jamie Hayter, and she attacks Thunder Rosa, and so she's helping Britt. But here comes, right behind Jamie Hayter, is Mercedes Martinez, who's actually feuding with Thunder Rosa, and she's going to wrestle her on Dynamite this Wednesday. She shoves Jamie Hayter out of the way so that she can go after Thunder Rosa. And Jamie gets up in her face, and she gets up in Jamie's face, and now Britt Baker has to play the role of Peacemaker. She has to play the role of John Cena. And she steps in between these two women, and so that is how the segment ended. Hookers rejoice. If you've got your drink, hold it up, because it was time for some Hook. Hook one-on-one against QT Marshall's star pupil Blake Lee, who we were told was a high school wrestling champion. It made no difference. This kid stood no chance against Hook. You're going to put a high school wrestling champion in there against Hook. It went about as well as you would have expected. Hook got some punches. He hit a suplex. QT Marshall got up on the apron to try to distract Hook, which only briefly worked. So the student was able to hit a back elbow when Hook came back over after the distraction. And then Blake Lee climbs up top. He's going to go for a moonsault. And he goes and he rotates over for the moonsault, and Hook just steps out of the way and watches him crash and burn. Very Samoa Joe-esque. Samoa Joe is one of the things I loved about Samoa Joe in TNA. He would do this shit all the time. Some dope would be doing some big move, a moonsault or something off the ropes, and Joe would just be like, fuck this. And he would just sidestep them. He would casually walk out of the line of fire. So that's what Hook did here. And Hook hit a T-bone suplex. He locked on the red rum for the submission. This was short and to the point. This was exactly what it needed to be. And I am waiting on the announcement that I think will be coming any week now. Hook at Revolution, one-on-one against QT Marshall. The only time it will be acceptable to see a QT Marshall match on pay-per-view is against Hook, and Hook can destroy him. That's the match I'm hoping to see at Revolution. And that led to our main event. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus defending the AEW Tag Team titles against the undefeated Gunn Club, Austin and Colton Gunn. The Gunn Boys were working over the Jungle Boy. A lot of boys in this match. This was coming out of the final ad break. They were working over Jungle Boy. Once he got the hot tag to Luchasaurus, the dinosaur worked over both sons by himself. He went for a double choke slam, but they escaped out to the floor. Not for long. Jungle Boy hit a dive out onto them. Jungle Boy threw Colton back inside. He took a choke slam and a standing moonsault by Luchasaurus. There was another spot where Jungle Boy went for another dive. He's trying to save his partner on the outside. And Jungle Boy dives to the ropes, but I think it was Austin. Austin Gunn moved out of the way. And Jungle Boy hit Luchasaurus in the back and knocked him into the barricade. So when Colton tried to use the feet on the ropes inside to get the cheap win, Christian Cage, who was out there with Jurassic Express, he got up on the apron to stop the pin and show the referee, hey, this guy's cheating. Billy Gunn came over. He yanked Christian down from the apron. Meanwhile, inside, Colton grabs one of the AEW Tag Team title belts. And as Excalibur said, he brained him. Nailed Jungle Boy right in the head. Right in the brain. He brained him with the tag team belt, knocked him out. Went for the pin. Aubrey Edwards was distracted, didn't see any of this, and went to count the fall. Jungle Boy kicked out at 2.5. Luchasaurus chokeslammed Colton into the front row onto a bunch of planted fans in the first couple of rows. At the same time, Christian took down Billy Gunn on the outside with a spear, so both of them are down. And inside, Jungle Boy hit Austin with the kill switch for the win to retain the titles. The Gun Club eats defeat for the first time here in AEW, their very first loss. And this was not as good as the opening tag team match, but I still thought it was good. It was a good main event to close out what I thought overall was a fun episode of Rampage. The fastest 60 minutes of wrestling. It is, I can barely keep up with my notes, which is not your problem. That's for me to worry about. You could just sit back and enjoy the show carefree. But it's tough to take notes on a show like this when you're trying to keep up with everything. Invariably, you're going to miss some stuff. But it was, I thought overall it was a fun episode. Now, next Wednesday on Dynamite, here's the rundown for the next 2 weeks. Chris Jericho, or the next 2 shows, I should say. Chris Jericho and Jake Hager are taking on Santana and Ortiz. The implosion of the Inner Circle. Thunder Rosa against Mercedes Martinez, no disqualification. Wardlow is taking on Max Caster in a Face of the Revolution qualifying match. We know who's going over in that match. Just based on how MJF has been talking, we knew that Wardlow was going to end up in this match. We knew that. So that's going to be taking place on Dynamite on Wednesday. Bryan Danielson against Lee Moriarty, and Sammy Guevara defends the TNT Championship against Darby Allin. And that is interesting, because the match that I had pitched last week was a triple threat match, where maybe they would do Sammy against Darby against Andrade at Revolution for the TNT title. The fact that they're doing Sammy against Darby now tells me we're not getting a clean winner. I'm almost certain Andrade is going to get involved. And maybe we are getting a 3-way at Revolution, because on paper, that sounds like an incredible match. You put those 3 guys in the ring together, you're going to get a great fucking match. So I'm hoping that, yes, we're going to get a non-finish or a fuck finish, I think. Maybe not. Maybe there'll be a decisive finish, but I think they're going to come back. I think we're going to see all 3 of them. Now, they could end up just doing Darby against Andrade and have somebody else challenge Sammy for the TNT title. But now that I've said it out loud, I would like to see that triple threat match. So that's Dynamite. Now, programming note here for Rampage next Friday. Rampage is going to be airing earlier. It's going to be airing at 7 Eastern next Friday because it's NBA All-Star Weekend, and so the whole schedule is all thrown into flux. So Rampage is actually going to be leading into SmackDown. We're going to have a taped Rampage leading into a taped SmackDown next Friday, and I will be live an hour earlier for the recaps. Instead of 11 o'clock, I'll be on a little after 10 p.m. next Friday, so just be aware of that. But on Rampage, it's Dante Martin against Powerhouse Hobbs, Face of the Revolution qualifier, and Switchblade Jay White makes his in-ring AEW debut. He goes one-on-one against Trent Beretta. So there you go. And now let's check the polls. We'll start with SmackDown. 38.5% thumbs up. 61.5% thumbs down. So even with that great main event on SmackDown, there it is. I mean, that's SmackDown right there in a nutshell for you, as far as the state of that show. And the AEW Rampage poll is up as well at Solomonster on Twitter. 82% thumbs up, roughly 18% thumbs down. So feel free to go ahead and vote. Bliss fan in the chat, I'm going to be doing Elimination Chamber predictions on the podcast on Sunday. So episode 743 on Sunday, I'm going to cover Raw. I'll talk a little bit more about tonight's SmackDown, and we'll do Elimination Chamber predictions on the podcast on Sunday. So there you go. There you go. You did say that. Fire Panda said that SmackDown now is like the 0-16 Lions. Are they 0-16? I didn't realize. I knew they were bad. I didn't realize they were quite that horrible. I thought the Jets were bad. Holy shit. Well, let's flip on over to your super chats and see what you guys are saying here tonight. Hey, Near, what's going on, Near? Hope you're having a good day. Says Solomonster, you make kicking cancer's ass easier, buddy. Anything I can do. Anything I can do. Yeah, I say it every week. I'm thinking about you. I'm rooting for you. I think everybody in the chat is rooting for you. Now, another programming note as I look ahead to next week, I'm undecided. I'm not sure yet. There's a very good chance that I am going to be live after NXT on Tuesday. It is the Vengeance Day. It's like a takeover, but it's airing on USA. Actually, no, it's airing on Sci-Fi. So I might be going live for the review after Vengeance Day on Tuesday night. So that would mean there'll be a stream on Tuesday. There'll be a stream on Wednesday. I'm going to be going live on Thursday night next week for channel members. We'll do the next call-in show. I'll be live on Friday for SmackDown and Rampage review. I'll be live next Saturday afternoon for the Elimination Chamber review. That's a 12 p.m. Eastern start time for that pay-per-view, which means probably going live between 3 and 3:30 on YouTube. And then that Sunday, episode 744. So I don't know what else I'll have time for, but it's looking like, even without the NXT stream, if I choose not to do it, it's looking like a busy week. But I hope you guys will join me for all the fun coming up next week. And support, because I'm going to need it. Send alcohol. Now, Groovy Goose dropping $4.99. It's too bad we didn't get to see Johnny Knoxville in a lumberjack match. Let's see. We got Ryan Spies dropping a couple of super chats here. Sami actually dropping the same exact one. Sami against Darby is 100% going to a time limit. You know, that's a good point. I always forget about the time limit with that TNT title. So they don't even need to have interference in the match. I still think, Andrade could get involved. We don't see too many DQs in AEW. I know we just saw one the other night. You're right. They could go to a time limit draw and bring it back as a triple threat, maybe at Revolution. Frank Aquilino, what is going on, Frank? What is going on, Frank? With 1992 being number one, what are the best, or what are the rest? I can't even read. What are the rest of your top 5 Royal Rumble? Oh, I don't know. I can't. 2001 and 2005 are 2 of my other favorite Rumble matches. So if I had to recommend any other Rumbles, check those out. 2001 and 2005 were also very good. I don't remember 2007 being great. The finish was great. The finish of 2007 with Undertaker and Shawn Michaels is one of the better endings. But in terms of like full, Rumble matches, I would check those 2 out. Tuxedo T Servo, thank you for the $10. Says, any thoughts on Sheeta's article? Travel restrictions have been the biggest factor, but lack of TV time for the women's division is a known problem, not just for the Joshi ladies. I read what she wrote. I didn't read it as a criticism of AEW as far as how they treat the women's division. I saw some people trying to twist her words, unless I just misunderstood. She did this article or interview, and she was explaining that, the pandemic and travel restrictions as a result of the pandemic really wreaked havoc as far as a lot of the Japanese talent being able to come over and work in AEW. They were working quite regularly in AEW before COVID hit. And then Riho and all of them, disappeared for a long time. She said it's not just that, though. She said as the company has grown and the women's division has added more talent, it's become harder for a lot of the Joshi talent to be featured and to find time for them. I don't see any, that's true. I don't see anything wrong with that. They're going to be fighting for time because there's more women in the division. That's just the way it is. It's not a Joshi division. You can have influence from different parts of the world. You can bring in luchadors and you can bring in Joshis and people from everywhere if you want. Have a little bit of flavor in the division from different parts of the world, but it's not a Joshi division. It's still an American wrestling company that's going to feature primarily American wrestling talent. And they'll feature some Joshi talent where they can, but they're not going to be the focal point. So, I read what she said. I don't really see anything wrong with that. It's just the challenges that they're going to face going forward. Got to fight for time. Flamethrower Fluff Salisbury. It looks like the Gun Club said, dress us like Shawn Michaels and the Beverly Brothers mixed together. Hey, Scott Hall, thank you for the pair of 99-cent drops. Thank you, Scott. Marcus Robinson Johnson with the 10. Turned 27 years old today. Tomorrow I hang with the boys and watch some NBA and UFC. But tonight I get stoned and hang with you and the chat. Well, I can't think of a better way to spend your Friday night. But everybody wish Marcus a happy birthday. 27. That was a good age. I remember what I did I remember most of what I did for my 27th birthday. But we won't get into that. Marcus, thank you again, man. And again, happy birthday. I don't know why yours is showing 3 times, but there you go. Fire Panda with the 5. What is the best WWE match? And what is the best AEW match? And of those two, which one is the better? This is an impossible question to answer. I can't give you an answer. I don't know. I don't know. I have a lot of favorite matches in WWE. The best is a subjective thing. You should have said favorite. It's impossible to answer what the best match is because everybody's going to have a different opinion on what the best match is. I can rattle off 10 of my favorite matches, And in fact, the anniversary of one of them is coming up in a little over a month from WrestleMania 13. We're going to probably be doing a live watch-along for that for channel members. So get ready for the WrestleMania 13 match with Bret Hart and Steve Austin. I'm going to try to time it the day, I think it's a Wednesday. Same day as the last watch-along that we did. And I'm thinking about doing one on March 23rd. We might go live for channel members and watch Bret Hart against Steve Austin from WrestleMania 13. How's that sound? One of those channel member perks. But yeah, I can rattle off a whole bunch of matches. And AEW's had some incredible matches too. What would be the better one? Which company would win out? I don't know. I don't know. The best matches from both, I love them. I love them all the same. Good wrestling is good wrestling. Great wrestling is great wrestling, no matter where it's from. I don't think it has to be ranked. Little Alien Boy, one of our new members from the other night. Still can't chat, but I'm here, my boy. Well, what do you mean? Oh, he can't. Okay. Because he hasn't been a subscriber for 4 weeks. Well, in a couple of weeks, don't you worry. Well, a little more than a couple of weeks. You'll be able to chat with everybody else. I promise you. Little Alien Boy is going to be getting in on the conversations in a few weeks. Naif Al-Safar, thank you for the $4.99. Appreciate it. Bread Heart. Pumping out those carbohydrates here in this chat. I had a very nice birthday with a very nice, very evil edition of Rampage. I didn't get at Bert's, but I am... Oh, he's been enjoying his birthday, I could tell. I could tell just based on the fact that I can't read what he's trying to say. But he really liked Danhausen. Happy birthday, Bret Hart. You know what happens, though, when Bret gets too old? I'm just saying. Funky Weapon with the $3 super chat. You look miserable seeing this show. Well, I mean, can you blame me? It's WWE television, so I mean, what do you really expect? Gooch suplex hold. Could WWE put Shotzi Blackheart with Lita, kind of like how AEW does with Darby and Sting? They could. I don't know that is really necessary. I'm sure Shotzi would love it. Shotzi's not getting too much TV time, but Shotzi just lost her father, so they could be giving her some time off for that. It's tough, too, because I think last year she lost her stepfather, who she was close to, and now she lost her, I guess her biological father. So that's rough. You know, everybody at some point loses a father. Not too many people lose two. Funky Weapon says, oh, there's Bully the Clown. Very appropriate after his latest horrible take. Funky Weapon, though, was saying to think Nakamura was a huge star in Japan once. He's getting that bag, as they say. You know, he's making his money, and you know, hey, everybody's got to settle down at some point, right? So why not? I guess he doesn't have to beat his body up wrestling that strong style anymore. Hey, Temjin Zephyr, been a channel member, a Sound Off superstar for 7 months. What's going on, Temjin? Says, since you're looking to bring back Sound Off Gamer, will you play the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge? You know, I had completely forgotten about that they were working on that. And when is that coming out? I would absolutely look into that. If it's gonna be on Steam and I could play it on PC, I would consider it. When is that coming out? Somebody tell me when that's coming. I read about that months ago, and then I just completely forgot about it. But yeah, no, I'm definitely open to the idea. I just don't know when it's going to come out or if it's going to be playable on PC. Lakers Pats 1. What year was the deepest roster the WWE had? I say 2002. I think you're right. I think 2002, 2003. You know, coming out of the death of WCW and all the talent that they absorbed and that ended up coming in, coupled with the roster they had, coupled with all the new guys coming up from that class, John Cena, Batista, Randy Orton. They had a hell of a roster. I mean, look, they have a hell of a roster now. They fired most of it last year, but even today they have a hell of a roster. It's just that the writing and the creative is so piss poor, and the mismanagement of a lot of their talent is so bad that it doesn't feel like it. They've got a pretty deep roster now if you look at who's under contract. But that 2002, 2003 period, that was a hell of a roster that they had. Near, thank you for the super chat. Ethan says no date for the game yet, but it should be releasing on most platforms. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. You know, that was me back in the day, Turtles in Time and everything. You know, throwing chucking pizzas at the Foot Soldiers. I was all over that stuff. Tokes Kazim with the $4.99. Brother Solo, do you think Naomi is going to make it a three-way with Charlotte and Ronda? Ooh. If I had a tie, I would go like this right now. No. What can I say? What can I say? It's a Friday night, right? Sound Off After Dark. But he says, do you think Naomi is going to make it a three-way with Charlotte and Ronda at WrestleMania? No. Jamin John. No, they're not going to do it because it's probably going to be Sonya against Naomi. But the marquee match that they can promote for the WrestleMania main event is not going to have anybody else in it except Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair. That's it. That's it. If anything, if Naomi has a singles match or any kind of real featured match, it's going to be against Sonya Deville. Jamin John, why Austin as CEO storyline in the 90s dropped so soon? Because it was never meant to be longer than a couple of week thing. You know, they did those funny segments where Austin went to Titan Tower and he was giving out beer to everybody, and after that, it's like, what can you really do? Austin, you know, what are you going to do? Turn Austin into a corporate type? Make him a general manager or something? That's not what people wanted Austin to be. So they got out of it what they were going to get out of it with those segments, and then they moved on. It was never meant to be a long-term thing. Ojali Burgos, 2018 equals 0 women. Now in 2022, 12 women on the show. You may not like the WWE, but you can't deny WWE is making strides for women in a very tough environment. Jamin John, which villain that have never been in a Batman movie would you want to see? I want either Clayface or Solomon Grundy. Huh. That has not been in a Batman movie. What about King Tut? Did they ever do? I don't think they ever did a Batman movie with King Tut. Wasn't King Tut one of the Batman villains? James Cooper showing love and support for the best wrestling content on YouTube. I missed wrestling 10 to 15 years ago when I was growing up. AEW is still good, at least. Fire Panda Solomonster turning heel at Hog. Calling it now. Well, look, if I was going to do anything like that, I certainly wouldn't tell you people. I wouldn't give that away. Hamwall. You hear about WWE, quote, not looking for wrestlers. Part of why Kyle O'Reilly left NXT. P.S. Cool if I use a clip of you saying my name for my YouTube videos. Yeah, that's fine. I know what you're referring to. WWE is looking to recruit more talent. They're not looking at independent talent. They want very little, if any, independent talent. That's like the new decree. And Kyle O'Reilly was on Renee Young's podcast, or Renee Paquette. I'm sorry. She's not Renee Young anymore. But he was on her podcast, and he said, you know, he talked with Shawn Michaels before he left, and Shawn was very supportive of his move. And Shawn said, look, if you're looking to be featured here in NXT, you might not be featured in the way that you used to be. So you gotta think about that when you make your decision. And Kyle said, I wasn't ready to become a glorified coach. I'm still young. I want to wrestle. I want to be a featured player. And that's why he left, ultimately. Plus, his friends were in AEW, and he said it just felt like the right thing to do. I said the stupidest thing Kyle O'Reilly could have ever done was sign a new contract to stay in WWE. Because there was no future for him in that company. There was no future for him. There was no future for him in NXT anymore, let alone the main roster. And the reason he hasn't been on TV is because he and his wife, I assume, or girlfriend, just had a baby. So for the people wondering, well, where's Kyle? He debuted and he disappeared. He had a kid. So he's going to be back very soon. Samoan fan. Moxley had a one-night stand with Punk. Poor Renee. Oh, please. She seems like a fun one. She probably would want to get in the middle of that. I don't think she would be so upset about that. She seems like a fun lady. Ultimate Elite says, I have no idea why Roderick Strong stayed. I believe Roddy signed a new deal a while back. And had his contract been coming up for expiration around the time that his friend's contract came up, I don't think he would be there. Especially after they got rid of his wife. They fired his wife. Now she's wrestling on AEW Dark. You don't think Roddy wouldn't have taken the chance to jump over to AEW? I think he signed his contract a little too early. And he's got some time left on it. Look, I like the Diamond Mine stuff, but Roddy's another one. Roddy, when the Diamond Mine thing is over, he's got no future in that company. He just doesn't fit the type that they would push, especially not now. You could tell how much they really value all those independent wrestlers when the new decree is that we don't want to recruit any more independent wrestlers. So, I mean, come on. Do you need any more proof of what they truly think of some of these independent talent? I mean, some of the independent talents on the main roster, they've been there for a while, right? Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. So they're not going to just suddenly stop pushing them. But do you really believe that someone like Roderick Strong, I mean, take a look at the guy. You think someone like him is going to get called up to the main roster, and if he is, that he's going to be featured in any kind of meaningful way? You're out of your mind. When his contract is up, I think he's as good as gone. I just don't know how much time he's got left on his deal. Could be a while. Winston Churchill. Jesus Christ. I got to take a drink here. Holy shit. I don't know where that came from. We got Winston Churchill sending me a PayPal. That's amazing. Sending me a donation. Winston Smith. Not to be confused with the great Winston Churchill. Keith Lee looked fantastic in his debut. What did you think of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises? I was not a real big fan of Batman Begins. I didn't really like it that much. And then The Dark Knight blew me away. The Dark Knight, I think. The Dark Knight is my favorite movie of all time. I love it. I love The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Rises was not as good. It was not as good, and I could barely understand what Bane was saying, what Tom Hardy was even saying the entire movie. That's basically all I heard for the whole movie. And the Batman. That's basically fucking Bane in the entire, fucking Dark Knight Rises. I don't know who made that decision. The Dark Knight, though, is fantastic. I love The Dark Knight. Data and Boy podcast. I stopped watching WWE weekly shows a few months ago. How bad does WWE need to get for you to stop watching? WWE weekly show. I gotta stop looking at the chat. Look, I do a podcast talking about WWE, and whether the shows are good one week or bad the next, the reality is people still keep up with WWE because they're the top promotion. They're the most viewed promotion. And people, in a lot of cases, don't want to watch Raw and SmackDown every week anymore. They rely on podcasts to keep them up to date on what's going on, so they know, hey, was there anything good on the show this week? No? Okay, well, we'll try again next week. Look, I watched SmackDown tonight, and I told you guys, go watch Charlotte and Naomi. I gave you a recommendation. That's your homework after the stream tonight. Go watch Charlotte and Naomi. I will let you know when there's stuff worth watching. And when there isn't, I'll explain to you why it is. So I think that, people, more and more I'm hearing from people who are giving up on the shows, but they don't want to completely divorce themselves from wrestling. They don't want to completely divorce themselves from what's going on in WWE. This is my show. This is what I do. You can't do a podcast like this the way that I've been doing it for all these years and suddenly just not talk about WWE. And it's not like I hate everything that's going on in WWE. You've got to wade through the bad shit to get to the good shit that is there. So I'm not giving up on WWE because that would be ridiculous. Then I couldn't do my job here. I mean, that's the bottom line. I have a podcast to do, if nothing else. So, yes, of course, I'm going to watch WWE. It would be stupid for me not to. Near Roth, Israelis and Palestinians want peace. I think we all would like peace. But unfortunately, there's a lot of things in this world that I want that I will never get. We've been hearing about peace for how many generations now? And we never seem to be able to get it right. Stephen Chapper with the $30 super chat. That was the $30 Bully the Clown super chat from earlier. Thank you, Stephen. Happy to catch the stream after my nightly run. Here is more love for the work you do. Love the sound of Be the Booker and how you would actually book it. It's funny you mentioned that. Somebody on Twitter had what I thought was a very intriguing idea, and I'm giving it some real consideration. And I pitch it to you guys to see what you guys think. It was presented to me that not starting tonight, but towards the end of the month, maybe the beginning of March, we do Be the Booker. Maybe one for the men and one for the women too, where we treat it like March Madness, where every Be the Booker that I select goes into a bracket. I will end up putting let's say an 8-man tournament bracket. And when I do that, we'll have voting that commences, and you guys can vote each week on which match should advance to the next round and advance to the next round until we finally crown a winner. The match that you all voted for as the best match of all the Be the Booker selections for the entire month. It's kind of like our own little March Madness type of, or some kind of like tournament type thing. And I was intrigued by that idea. That sounded kind of fun. So I think we might do something like that. I just have to flesh the idea out a little bit more. Mr. J, 33352, buy or sell on who to teach. Buy or sell on who to teach you how to wrestle Bret Hart or Ricky. Oh, who to teach me how to wrestle. I didn't know what you were trying to say there. Who would I want to teach me how to wrestle? Bret Hart. Bret Hart. Juan Ocampo, tip your driver if ordering grub on Sunday, or go fuck yourself. Yes, always tip your driver. TS Genki with the $2. Sonya and Naomi feud has been so long with no substance. Well, that's WWE in a nutshell, isn't it? Stephen Chappa with the 5. While running tonight, what were you running from? I was listening to your Rawful Sound Off Extra. So much of that rant still rings true. It is eerie. Yeah, what was that from, 2018? I'm telling you, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Nothing ever fucking changes. They're making more money now than they were then. And somehow the show has gotten worse. It's like some of these big blockbuster, big budget movies that are absolute fucking garbage, and they go on to make like $1 billion. I mean, it's ridiculous. Devin from New Jersey with the $4.99. Despite the growing roster, who are some names that should absolutely be on Dynamite every week? Well, I mean, if we're talking about existing talent, I mean, Keith Lee just debuted. I would hope to start seeing him on the show every single week. Miro, when he comes back from his injury, which I believe is going to be very soon, he needs to be on the show more consistently. I was enjoying, before he got hurt, I was enjoying, what he was doing. The whole Redeemer thing. He finally found something that was really working well for him. I kind of want to see, everybody. I want to see everybody. I mean, again, if we're talking on Dynamite specifically, there's only so much time on Dynamite, but I want to see Malachi Black more. I want to see Andrade more. I want to see Keith Lee. I want to see Sammy Guevara more. I want to see Ricky Starks more. We never see him on Dynamite, only on Rampage. It's kind of like they have their own little unofficial brand split without having a brand split, which is not terrible. You can have an unofficial brand split where nobody is necessarily bound to be on one show, but they're just so happen to be on that show most of the time. But why not have Ricky Starks, show up on Dynamite a little more often and get in the ring? What about Jay Lethal? Let's see Jay Lethal, a little more often. Problem is, you do have a huge roster, and you only have time for so many names. And if you feature all the people I just mentioned, and I haven't even mentioned the women, then you have no time for the women. And then the people will complain, well, now we have no women's matches, or we have one women's match because people want more. So now, okay, we'll have 2 women's matches, but then you don't have time for some of these other people. So that's the issue you face. That's the issue you face when you have a huge roster like they've built up in AEW. Bret Hart, my suggestion for Sound Off Gamer is the Friday the 13th game, which is available on Steam. P.S. I had a typo on my last super chat. I am sorry. Yeah, the problem is with a lot of these games, and it'll be the same thing with 2K22 if I play it. You know, I'm going to have to make sure all the music is turned off, so you don't get the full experience, because if you play that music on YouTube, you get fucked. So, you know, you can have sound effects, you can have some audio, but you got to turn a lot of it off. That kind of sucks. Like in the Friday the 13th game, you probably have the whole like with the music playing behind it. And I wouldn't take the chance of playing some of that music. There's Boombox Brock. Paul Heyman, of all people, donating a Boombox Brock super chat. We'll get to him here in a second. Let's see here. Well, there he is. Speak of the devil. Paul Heyman. I would call Solomonster the man, but I'm afraid that he would be living rent-free in the head of the 1992 Royal Rumble winner. Wait, that's a good thing. Well, there isn't anything in that head lately, so there's plenty of room to stretch my legs, and I mean, shit, you can probably have a fucking 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house in that head. I don't know what is going on with Ric Flair. Sounds to me like maybe he's, maybe his podcast numbers are starting to slip or something. I don't know. Temjin says, I can imagine Solomonster raging in Call of Duty. Hey, if Call of Duty is as frustratingly bad as some people say it is, yeah, I don't do well with those games. It would take everything in my power not to break my controller. That's the kind of gamer I am. I don't like losing. Paul Heyman, is Brian Cage still employed or still breathing? I don't know. Somebody should do a welfare check on him. I don't know what's going on with him. He clearly crossed somebody because he's at the shows every week. He's in the back, and they literally never use him. I don't even think he's on Dark. So make of that what you will. C. Moonsault. Still better than Charlotte's moonsault. Brett's matches were slow and boring. His moves don't look like they hurt. Angle, Benoit, and Rollins were all superior in-ring performers. Well, you're wrong. And that's just demonstrably wrong. But you're entitled to your opinion. It's fine. I like all of them. I like Angle. I liked Benoit's matches. Rollins has had a lot of great matches. And Brett's matches are fantastic. And you are in the minority. And actually, I find that there are more people who appreciate Brett now than they did back then. I don't know if it's because they think that just the way wrestling has changed. He didn't do a lot of flashy stuff, but I feel just the opposite. His matches, I always say, like, it really felt like he was in a battle when he was in there. It wasn't just the moves, it was the selling, it was the story, it was the comeback. And, when he would have those matches where he wouldn't use his sharpshooter, he'd come up with some other way to finish the match, like what Danielson was doing. When Danielson came into AEW, he was winning every match with a different move. And I said, I think that's really cool. It'd be very easy for him to just use his finishing hold, but he went out of his way to find different ways to win. And that, again, that's a quality that I remember finding in a lot of Brett matches. So, by the way, if you were to tell Seth Rollins that you think that he's better than Brett, I think even Seth would laugh in your face. Because Seth is also a big Bret Hart mark, in spite of the fact of Bret Hart being a little unkind to him many years ago. You remember the things he said about Seth Rollins when he was hurting, when people were getting injured in Seth's matches? Let's see. Judgment. Just to put tweet to chat, I would like to thank you for possibly using my idea for Be the Booker next month. I am EE Judgment Day on Twitter. Yes, well, you're exactly right about that. I was referring to your tweet from earlier. I bookmarked it for me to go back to later on, because I was intrigued by the idea. Oh, I told you. I replied back to you. I said, I am intrigued by the idea. I just have to figure out when to start. And I don't do March Madness. So when I get asked by friends sometimes, actually, even last year, I remember I walked into the barbershop. I was getting a haircut. And, which I need. I'm going to get one tomorrow before the House of Glory show. But I remember walking into the barbershop, and they have the boxes on the wall. And everyone's got the box. And who are you? I don't even know how any of that works as far as like with the March Madness stuff and all that. I never got involved in that. So it'll probably just be like a regular, you know, kind of 8 or 16 bracket tournament. And yeah, I think it could be a lot of fun to do it that way. So thank you for the idea, Judgment. I appreciate that. And I think with Judgment's super chat, I think it is Judgment Day. I think that gets us all caught up on your super chats. BlissFan says that Roman Reigns will lose the title at SummerSlam to Drew or The Fiend if he comes back. Well, you can forget about The Fiend coming back and winning the world title. I don't think The Fiend is coming back at all. So forget about that. Drew, yes, I think that is very possible. And let's not forget the rumored UK pay-per-view or premium live, whatever, at the beginning of September. If they do another stadium show in the UK or somewhere in that part of the world, I could absolutely see Drew McIntyre being built up to win the championship in the main event. Brett was right and wrong about Rollins. The Sting thing was a freak accident. Sting was not the only one to get hurt, just for the record. Can I see Santos Escobar on the main roster after the feud with Breakker? No. No, not anytime in the next couple of months. I think LA Knight is going up after WrestleMania. I think Dakota Kai is going up very soon. I mean, she's losing matches that she really shouldn't be losing on NXT now. She's had some dark matches. I think she's just doing the honors on the way out. So I think Knight's going up. I think Dakota's going up. You know, Ciampa and Pete Dunne had some dark matches and some main event matches. I could see both of them, but I think of the two, I would think Pete Dunne. I think Pete Dunne. Oh, I'll give one prediction away for Vengeance Day this week. I think Pete Dunne is losing to Tony D'Angelo. I think Pete Dunne's another one who's probably on his way up soon. So may the wrestling gods be with him. All right, so I'm just scanning your messages here, but we'll get back to that. Right now, I think I'm all caught up on everything I wanted to talk about. So why don't we just get to it? Let's get to it. It is Be the Booker time.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
We debuted the new Be the Booker on the Dynamite stream on Wednesday night. It was well received. We've added a whole bunch of names. Sometimes some of the same wrestlers just from different eras and different generations. Names on here that you wouldn't expect. And you guys seem to enjoy it. So it is time to Be the Booker. Now, again, I am working on updating the women's one. I'm coming up with one of my own. It's a lot of work. It's very time consuming. And this is not the week to be doing it. So we're not going to be doing the women's one tonight. Hopefully I'll have that done by Monday or Tuesday next week. So you can watch for the female edition of Be the Booker next week. But right now, we will take her for a spin here and see what we come up with. Let's see what we come up with. There it is, the brand new look for Be the Booker. And I thank everybody for all of the nice comments. You have no idea how long this took me. It took me 11 hours over the course of 2 days. Very time consuming, but worth it. But worth it. Let's see who we land on here. The first Be the Booker is Al Snow and Head. What does everybody want? I know what everybody wants. It's Friday night. What else would everybody want? So we've got some Head. We all got some Head here at the beginning of Be the Booker. And let's see who Al Snow and Head, let's not forget about Head, who they will be taking on. What will this main event be? Is this a main event caliber match? I guess that should really be the question. Al Snow and Head taking on Paul Heyman, who in that particular image just so happens to have an expression on his face that looks like he is about to, in fact, take some head. I suppose he could be receiving, though. That could also be the expression for someone who is receiving some head. Anyway, this has gone off the rails. But there you go. Al Snow and Head taking on Paul Heyman. It's a good thing we aren't starting the tournament bracket this week. This would be quite the Be the Booker to feature in a March Madness type tournament here. I don't think that match would go very far. I mean, look at his face. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? You know I'm right. Don't look at me like that. Well, I told you there's a lot of very interesting options in the new wheel that we have for Be the Booker. Al Snow wants his ECW money, says Bliss. I think there's a lot of people that want their ECW money. They still haven't gotten paid. Turtlehead says, this is the worst booking of all time, all my life. Well, you must have missed those Rosa Mendez ones that we had. I'll take an Al Snow, Paul Heyman match over some of those women's matches that I picked. Gabriella says more of a receiver he is. Well, hey, to each their own, right? Ray, am I going to see you tomorrow? Am I going to see you at the venue? She says, if you look like that whole getting head, that's crazy. LOL, that looks painful. Yeah, that looks like he got it caught in like a bear trap or something. Poor guy. Devin from NJ, he's been a channel member for 10 months. Buy or sell the Shield TV show or WWE Faction The Shield? Oh, the Shield TV show. One of my favorite shows. I will always put that show over whenever somebody asks me about it. If you've never seen it, you're really missing out. And I love the Shield Faction too, but you got to watch the Shield. What is next for T-Bar? A phone call from Johnny Ace. Judgment said, I'll never forget when Solomonster picked No Way Jose and had no clue who he... I remember that. I remember it landed on him, and I legitimately was staring at the image, and I think I even said, like, who the fuck is that? It took me like 5 seconds before I realized who it was. There was one where I picked a woman and no one knew who she was. Yeah, I don't. Who was that? I think that was just like a bad photo. I don't remember who that was. Yeah, but people had no idea who it was. I think it might have been someone from maybe one of the NXT seasons or something. It wasn't Caitlyn. It might have been somebody like that though. Do I have any extended family, like aunts, uncles, or cousins who are also wrestling fans? If I do, I've never met them. If I do, I've never met them. But I will say one thing that is always very fun is when you go to these family get-togethers and you see cousins and family you haven't seen in a year or a couple of years, and everyone's like, oh, what are you up to? Are you working at the same place? Are you still doing that wrestling thing? Apparently it's the wrestling thing. And I say, yes, I'm still doing the wrestling thing. And I have no interest then in getting into a conversation with this person because I know they don't know anything about wrestling. They know nothing about what I do. They're not going to have any interest. They're just trying to be nice. And I'm trying to steer the conversation somewhere else. But they keep asking questions. So what is, it's fake, right? It's not real. Yes, I know. So what is it that you do? Do you wrestle? No, I don't wrestle. So what is it that you do? I do a podcast. What's that? This was a real conversation that happened once. And I don't even remember which side of the family she was on. This was clearly an older, that's my impression of her. This was an older family member that I wasn't really close to, but she, she would always be at these family get-togethers. But it was just constant questions. And it's just, after a while, you just kind of have fun with it. I kind of regret the fact that I didn't say, yes, I am a wrestler. I should have just gone with it and been like, yeah, I wrestle. What's your name? Well, they call me Solomonster. And just played along, I've been heavyweight champion, 5 times. You're lucky they didn't say wrestling. Temjin says the wrestling is fake talk is really, really irritably old. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But whatever, anyway, those conversations, invariably, those conversations always come up. You still doing that wrestling thing? So what is it? Is it like real wrestling, like amateur wrestling? Like, no, I don't do a podcast about amateur wrestling. I do a podcast about WWE, and then everybody then chimes in. Everybody, oh, I used to watch that Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and Bruno Sammartino, and Antonino Rocca. Those guys. You don't know who those guys are? Yes, I do. Yes, I know who those guys are. Anyway. I do a sports entertainment podcast. This is a premium live podcast that you're tuned into right now. Don Juan, thank you for the $1.99. When are you showing us the noodle pudding recipe? That is a secret family recipe. I can't show you. I'm sorry. That secret is going to go to the grave with me. I cannot expose the noodle pudding recipe to all of you. This has to be kept in family. Does the grave digger still wrestle? Yeah, the undead zombie guy. He still wrestled up until a few years ago, and by the end there, he looked like an undead zombie. Yeah, Marcus, that's what this is. This is a premium live podcast. Yeah, wrestling being a soap opera for men. I mean, people have said that for years. That's not like a new thing people say. When am I defending my Solomonster Wrestling Championship? I may bring it with me tomorrow night. I may have to defend it against Ken Broadway if he gets up in my face. I don't know. I think me and Jay White might have to work this guy over. Near dropping a super chat. If the Benoit incident never happened, would he be in the Hall of Fame today? Of course. Absolutely. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Of course he would. He would have been in the Hall of Fame years ago. That incident is the only reason he's not in the Hall of Fame and never will be and never should be. Now, if he was already in the Hall of Fame and that happened, then you get into the whole debate, well, should he be removed or not, which is a silly debate because there is no real Hall of Fame. There's no place where he would be enshrined or anything like that. But then you would have a debate about what to do in that situation. But this is what always just puzzled me. Like, I would still get email questions from people asking how much time has to go by to put Benoit in the Hall of Fame. And I literally would sit here looking at my screen, not believing what I'm seeing. Like, how is that even a question? Putting aside your own personal thoughts, look at this from a WWE perspective. Why in God's name would they put him in the Hall of Fame after the fact? Why would they ever do that? It'd be one thing if he was already in, but he wasn't. You can't do that under any circumstances. The answer is no. It will always be no. 50 years from now, the answer will be no. I don't understand why, and I'm not saying with you, but I'm just saying you would be amazed that with some people, this is still a legitimate question. It blows my mind. Jared M. There's my boy Jared coming in hot. You might get the last. Well, I was gonna say you might get the last super chat, but then Fire Panda stole your thunder. Jared, thank you for the 25. Wendy Bird against Walter White. Boy, I thought you were gonna say Wendy Bird against Skylar White. Which one of them is more annoying? Wendy Bird is just pure evil. The transformation of that character over these seasons of Ozark, another great show that you should be watching on Netflix. Her transformation, she's more evil than her husband is. Her husband's not really evil. Her husband's just, a moron who got himself into a situation that he can't get himself out of. But that woman is pure evil. Juan says, did you visit an actual wrestling Hall of Fame during a business trip and you got yelled at by security for taking photos? Yeah, well, I'll tell that story real quick and then we'll get out of here. But first, let me just say, Fire Panda, thank you for the $2. He says, I'd carry you to a 60-minute classic, but you would win. Well, I wouldn't book it any other way. I have creative control in my contract. Don Juan says, my sister said she wants to be your Valentine. Is that cool? That's fine with me. Yeah, no, that story that you mentioned, I told that on the podcast many years ago. I was doing the podcast probably a few years at that point, and I was on a business trip in St. Louis. So anybody who lives in St. Louis or in that area, you might know the, I want to say it was like the South County Mall or something like that. So there was a store opening. The client was a store that was opening in that mall. That's why I was at the mall. So I was scoping out the mall the night before just to make sure that the ribbons were there for the ribbon cutting and we had the giant scissors and everything. And by the time I was leaving the mall, it was probably like 9 o'clock at night. I'm walking along and I happen to look up and I see the pro wrestling t-shirt shop. And I'm like, you know how like if you watch these movies or TV shows, you look up and see something and then you have that like, that heavenly music like, oh, and like the light shines down. Like for me, I was like, holy shit, are you kidding me? Like there's a fucking pro wrestling store in this mall. I'm there. So I took out my flip phone because back then we had flip phones. And I'm like this, trying to take pictures of the marquee because the marquee was like a cartoon. It wasn't an actual image of anybody, but like it was a face, a bald head, no face, no facial features. It was clearly modeled after Steve Austin. And I just thought it looked really cool and I wanted to take a picture. So I snapped a picture and the security guard comes over to me and he's upset and he's saying, "Excuse me, what did you just do?" And I said, "I took a picture with my phone." He goes, "You're not allowed to do that." And I said, "Well, I'm not allowed to do that. I don't know what that means. Is there some kind of rule in the mall that you can't take pictures?" Like, I was in no mood at this point because I had a long flight and I just wanted to go back to my hotel. So he was really upset. He wanted to take my phone. And I was like, I didn't say this to him, but in my mind, I'm like, you're not getting my fucking phone. Looking at him, I could have easily outrun him. Let's just put it that way. So if he came anywhere near me, I would have ran the other way. There's no way this guy would have been huffing and puffing. His fucking tongue would have been dragging along on the floor. So we went back and forth, and he wanted me to delete the photo, and I said, I'm not going to do that. I just took a photo just to text it to a friend, and blah, blah, blah. Eventually, he left me alone. But I went into the store, and it was amazing because they had they had current stuff, T-shirts, and all kinds of, like, memorabilia and action figures, but they had old stuff too. So there were old like WCW figures from like the early 90s still in the packaging, like an old William Regal, and they had these figures, these weird WCW figures that had a red button right in the middle, like in their rib cage, and when you pushed it, it like vibrated. It It was like a vibrator. What the fuck do I need a vibrator for? So Paul Heyman maybe needs one from that fucking Be the Booker picture before. So I'm looking around and just all the cool shit that they had in that store. And then I look in the back, and on the wall, there's, I don't know, there's like things on the wall, and there's a ring bell, like an old looking ring bell that's like attached to the wall. And I asked the store owner, what is that? And he said that's the St. Louis Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. The St. Louis Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame was housed in the back of this store. And so I thought that was so cool that that's more of a real Hall of Fame than the WWE Hall of Fame is, because at least there's something physical there that people can actually go visit. And I took pictures, and I don't even know where the pictures are. I mean, that phone is like 4 generations ago now. But I believe since then, the store moved to a different mall. I think it's still there. It's not in the South County Mall anymore. So I'm not sure exactly where it is, but I just couldn't believe it. Me of all people, right? The wrestling nut. And I look up and I'm like, there it is, staring me right. I like bent down to tie my shoe, and I look up and there it is. And then this fucking security guard over here is accosting me for no reason. Yeah. When I was in Mexico, I was in Cancun for a wedding, and me and this girl who I met at the wedding, she was a friend of the bride. We got bored. We're like, all right, it's kind of boring here now. Do you want to go off site? And they had told us not to do that because it was kind of dangerous if you did that. But we said, oh, we'll be together. It'll be fine. So we paid like $80 to get on a bus with all these people that we didn't know. And we were going to go do like snorkeling and all kinds of shit that I had never done before. But one of the things that we did is they have these shops down in Mexico with all this Lucha Libre stuff. So I went down there and I got like a Lucha Libre mask, and they had all the like all these figures that were done up of all the like classic Lucha Libre stars and stuff. Because wrestling is obviously a big deal down there. So I wish we had more of that stuff here in this country. I think that would be very cool. She didn't seem too interested in all the wrestling stuff, though, so we weren't really going to get along all that well. Don Juan says, sounds good. That means we family now. Since you my brother-in-law, I need that noodle pudding recipe now. DM me. I'll get right on that. Darth Panic says, watch out. Ken Broadway is standing behind you with a steel chair. Yeah, I'm going to have eyes in the back of my head tomorrow. I'm a little worried about this now. And Fire Panda, you would win with a low blow and then a roll-up. A classic. Ah, yes. The old distraction roll-up I would win by, right? All right, guys. This has been fun. Good 2 hours and 20 minutes or so that we've been hanging out together. Thank you for keeping me company here on a Friday night. And let me see. How many likes do we have? Not nearly enough, right? It's never enough. But I love you guys anyway. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for all of the super chats. We got a very, very busy week coming up, as I mentioned. There will be a podcast on Sunday. I don't know how long it'll be, because after the AEW stuff on Wednesday, there really wasn't a whole lot of wrestling news this week. But we'll have what to talk about. I'll have Elimination Chamber predictions, Vengeance Day predictions for NXT. We'll talk AEW. We'll talk some other fun stuff as well. Take your mailbag questions, and be back either Tuesday night or Wednesday night. Might go live after NXT on Tuesday. We'll see. Follow me on Twitter at Solomonster. I'll keep you guys posted. Until then, be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great weekend. And if you can make it, if you are local and you can make it out, there's still tickets available. HOGwrestling.net. Probably buy them at the door too, but I would go to the website and come on down. We got a lot of big names that are going to be coming out for the show tomorrow night, and it's going to be a fun time. We got Switchblade, Private Party. It's going to be great. And I'll tell you guys all about it on Sunday. So until then, take care, guys. I'll see you this weekend.